Managers of Reddit, what made you fire an employee on their first day? Pub and bar manager here. This happened at my previous pub. New guy's first shift, and he was constantly on his phone and going for cigarette breaks without permission. 2 hours into his shift his mates came in, and he gave them all free drinks, shots, and snacks. Fired him on the spot, and he had the audacity to appeal, despite overwhelming evidence against him including 5 witness statements and CCTV, not to mention the stock count deficit. Well, second day for this one. Old guy, kept dozing off during training. Denied it when I addressed him about it, and yet it kept happening. Fired him for it on day 2. Fast forward maybe 8 months. He emails me to let me know that he really had been falling asleep, and I had been justified with the action I took. He realized there was an issue a few weeks after I terminated him because he fell asleep while driving and rear-ended another vehicle. Went to a specialist as a result, and they found that the Parkinson's medication he'd started shortly before beginning training was making him narcoleptic. Said he had rectified that with new meds and asked for a second chance. Gave him the opportunity for a do-over, and lo and behold, he's a good employee. 2 stand out. He was laughing at the ice bin. Admitted he was tripping balls. We laughed. I said you can't work here like that. We laughed. He said, yeah I know. So that was fun. She stuffed all the 5s from a fresh register, meaning I knew exactly how many 5s were supposed to be there, in her bra, assuming everyone who was totally watching wasn't paying attention. Nobody was gonna shake her down, and the police were busy. She made $75 for roughly 30 minutes of training. Girl snorted in disgust when I asked her to clear a table in her section. Wouldn't be shown how to set a table, and snapped at another manager. Do you even want to be here? I asked. Not really. Okay, grab your stuff. Good luck to you. Chief officer of a merchant vessel here. Technically, second in command of the ship after the captain. A seaman joined our ship while our vessel was berthed in Mobile, Alabama. He was carrying a plastic water bottle during familiarization rounds on deck with the third officer, and when it was empty proceeded to throw the bottle overboard. My Russian captain saw this, calmly asked me to call the seaman to his office, gave back all his documents, asked the agent to book him a flight back to where he came from. All of this happened in a span of 3 hours. I had an employee call off on her first scheduled day. On her second scheduled day, she showed up 2 hours late. This was a sub shop. We weren't open yet, but we had been in doing prep, baking bread, and building our sub trays for catering orders. We told her that this wasn't going to work out, and she got pissed. She started yelling that we were all racist assholes, and as she stormed out the door, she knocked over stacks of sub trays. We lost 15 trays to her tantrum. My boss went running out the door after her, and the girl's boyfriend got out of the car and reached behind his back swearing and telling my female boss that if she keeps stepping to them, that he would stop her good. We are pretty sure that he had a gun. My boss checked the license plate and came back in. We had all of this girl's information, address, phone, social security, etc. from the paperwork, so with that, and the security footage of her destroying the trays, we were able to press charges for the damage. I'm not the manager in the story, but I was there for part of it. Dude gets hired, starts training. During training, GM instructs him to take out the trash. He refuses, gets into an argument. Apparently, he didn't know that he was arguing with the GM despite the big fancy name tag with General MANAGER asterisk printed in block letters on it. Gets sent home. For some reason, he still comes in the next day, smelling of alcohol. He grabs food, this is a restaurant, without paying, right in front of everyone, including a manager. He then proceeds to start coming at a server because they couldn't tell him where the tequila at silverware was, not the server's job. This evolves into a literal fight and the police get called. We never saw him again after that. This was all before his first actual day of work. He interviewed really well, seemed excited to be a part of, kept mentioning his mom, in a what a nice boy way. He even brought his mom in. After we hired him, she seemed really nice too. It's not so weird when you consider how small town is. His first day, he showed up like a fucking space cadet. seemed to barely understand English, wasn't making eye contact with anyone but staring off into the distance like crazy, asking if he could take an early lunch 45 minutes into his shift. Dude was high off his gourd, and we politely told him it wasn't gonna work out 2 hours into the day. I think she kinda fired herself. She didn't show up, at all, in an actual work capacity. Her first non-training shift was opening on a Saturday. This place opened at 5:30 am. So me, excited to sleep in, because I opened MF, which was waking up at 3 am to make it, got woken up at 5:30 on the dot, because obviously clients called immediately. Whatever, maybe something happened. It sucked for me, and the people trying to get in early morning workouts, but I made it there, and had it covered. The problem was, when I tried to talk to her about it, she didn't even let me get started. She immediately started yelling at me that I didn't give her enough space for her personal issues or something like that. And then she emailed the VP of the company about how awful I was. I wouldn't have fired her for that. I tried to talk to her about it to find out why it happened. But I had no chance at all. She just went all out scorched earth. All she got was being fired from a person above me. I'm a bar and restaurant manager. One day the new kitchen porter walked through the front entrance carrying a huge bag of cheese over his shoulder, which the head chef had told him to pick up. He walked through the restaurant and, right in front of customers, launched it through the hatch in the kitchen, flying through the air as everyone just watched open-mouthed. The huge bag of cheese landed hard in the deep fat fryer. The chef working near it got scalded in hot oil and had to go to R&D. He's the only person I've sacked on their first day. I'm mostly pretty chill, but he was just a walking health and safety nightmare. Even after everything that happened, he still couldn't accept responsibility or apologize to the chef he hurt. He's the only person I've let go without a hint of remorse or sadness. The safety of your team always comes first. It is what happened on the first day, but he didn't get fired until a bit later, when we figured it out. Manager MSP team hired a bright guy. All seems good on the first day. At the end of the first day he received a phone call where he announced his father has passed away. 2 weeks of compassionate leave for funeral out of state later. He was supposed to start work again, but called from the car park to say he's too distraught. This goes on for 3 more weeks until one day we got a phone call from someone looking for this worker. It was his father. As it turned out, he's been running this scam where he gets jobs with multiple companies and pulls this same stunt, getting paid during the probationary period regardless of what happened for as long as he can. He set up salary payment to multiple accounts himself and to friends to avoid detection from tax agency. This guy was smooth. Lied and cried. Conned a lot of us. Not sure what happened to him, but we reported this to the tax agency for a case of tax fraud. I was assistant manager at Subway. I usually like to give people time. It's a tougher job than it seems from the outside. Everyone sucks at first, and taking someone's livelihood away is not a decision to be made lightly. But I had one lady who only lasted 3 hours. She was perfectly fine for the first couple minutes while the store manager was there. But she had a doctor's appointment, so she introduced us and told the new employee I was in charge when she wasn't there. As soon as my boss left, this lady just flatly ignored me when I asked her to do stuff like food prep or dishes. So I was already pretty pissed, but trying to be patient. When we got busy, I stationed her putting veggies on sandwiches. She said a few things to customers that annoyed me, but nothing too bad at first. Then one guy asked for extra olives, and she told him no. He was a bit offended and asked again, and she practically shouts, "You don't need any more olives, you have plenty." So I tell her to give him the olives he's asking for. Then she starts shouting at me about Subway standard veggie portions, like I wasn't the one who taught her 45 minutes ago. I tried a little to explain that it's a default amount, but customers can get extra, no big deal. She wasn't having it, so I stepped away from my station, gave the poor guy his olives, and apologized. That's when she lost it and started screaming that I was undermining her. I told her to go do dishes and I'd cover her station. She went storming off, thank God. I was already planning on talking to the store manager about it, because holy shit. But as luck would have it, the franchise owner dropped in for something or other. As soon as new girl realized who he was, she started ranting about how I didn't control my veggie portions or some shit and I should be fired. When the franchise owner took my side, obviously, she shouted at him too. That was that. Except that she called the store manager later, in tears, begging to know what she'd done wrong, and made it sound like she didn't realize I was her boss or that shouting at the owner about how he doesn't know how to run a business is inappropriate.